Okay, what's up Reddit? I just wanna review my MLD Grace Dual top setup in combination with the MLD bivy. Many of the tips, I guess, are valid for basically all tops, but yeah, just want to show the different setups that I figured out over the months of using this. So this is the basic setup if it's not raining. If I'm hoping it's not raining, pretty straightforward, just tracking poles. I put them this way so critters don't eat the cork. As you can see, that did some work there. Yeah, not much to say. That's like the upper side. You want to sleep with your head there. It's actually higher. And the zipper is closing towards your head. If you originally buy it, there's just going to be one of those shock cords, but you can use just half of it and cut it in half and tie the other half towards the bottom. And that's always been enough length for me to tie it somewhere. Also, because I'm lazy, I just added a bunch of loops along the shock cord in case I need to make it shorter or longer. Okay, now for the top, and that's like 0.5 DCF. And obviously the first thing I had to do was removing the heavy lines, replacing them with, I think it's I don't even know the thickness, but just the smaller version of the lines that MLD sells and all the other companies sell. And then I bought those things somewhere online, line tightener, like, so I can show that when it's set up to fix the length and be flexible. And yeah, and how I would start setting that up: always one stack there, then tracking pole here. Give me a second. Okay, so that's the first step for my setup. I do that if it's raining or not raining, if it's windy or not windy. Mostly works. If it would be raining right now, instead of stacking them out on the lines, I would actually put the stack through this little gap here, like in between there, and just stack it out there so it's closer to the ground. Because if you use those line locks instead of tying knots every time, you'll kind of have like a limit for how short you can get it. I wouldn't be able to get it shorter than this if I tighten it more. And like if I want to have more space here, I can just slide it up or down until it's tight. Yeah, now the next step I show you, it's probably just those two and then a tracking pole at the bottom. And then afterwards I can change the height and change individually the corners to make it higher or lower. So yeah, that's already finished setup. It's obviously not a storm setup. If I wanted to make that storm proof now, what I could do is just put those out and lower the whole thing to the ground, and as I explained before, put the stacks through that fabric here. And for the tracking poles, like when I attach the string, I left a little gap where I can put them through. Yeah, and like I said, you can use those line tensioners here to change the length. And now you could change it out to make it higher or lower and go around, which is a little bit of a pain, but once you know how high you want to set it up, you can already take that into account before you set up those corners and put those closer together and make that higher. And for the other side, that's actually it's actually like a one-sided setup when you buy the top, and there's just gonna be this loop right here. There's no loop on the other side, but you can buy one of these DCF stickers with a loop on it, I think from CPAX. And I just added it so I don't need to worry about which way I set it up. I don't want to set it up and I'd be like, oh shit, the loop is on the wrong side. And that's helpful, not always, but sometimes, most of the time, if you combine that setup with your bug bivy. I'll show you that in a second. So if it wasn't raining and it would be all dry, I would put my sleeping bag, air mattress, everything in there already, so I don't have to do it crawling underneath. If it was raining, obviously I would do it underneath. And then that's the head. I'm gonna show you after it's set up. Okay, now the bug bivy is added. You remember I added those loops for variable length, so that's the end loop, and that's this one. And if this is like not tight enough, which right now not really is tight enough, I can just do this. And right now I haven't looped it through here because you don't have to. Gives you a little bit different shape. And right now I don't have enough stakes, so I usually just do stakes at the top because I don't have enough stakes. And then just from the body weight and the shape of my air mattress, there's enough tension once you lie in there. And I never really use the other loop. I always just use one, and not even that always. And I totally ignore those. I'm actually thinking about removing them because when I'm in storm mode, I could also just toss a stone on top to make it not flap around, but I think, yeah, it's nice to have. I would probably make the lines way shorter because I will only use them in storm mode, so they can be like a third of the length that they are right now. And for all the length, I'll link you another post that talks about how they change the lines. I'm not sure, I just ran by that guide. And yeah, that's it, I think. Okay, so this is more of an actual rain setup. Like I explained before, with the 10 stacks through the fabric part. And then this is as low as track and pull goes. Sometimes it's too high actually for me when the rain is coming in from this side. So I'll just grab a stick somewhere that's like half as high. But I never really had it completely removed, because if it goes all the way to the bottom, the fabric's just gonna sit on your foot box, and with the condensation it's just gonna be super wet in the morning. And yeah, you can also do this lower, which I sometimes even did also pretty much maybe like half of the length right now. And then this is not gonna be tensioned enough. If it's like completely storming, I'll just be miserable in the tiny space down there. But let's be honest, I only really use the tarp when it's raining anyway, so yeah, this is probably my default setup if I use the tarp. Maybe a little bit higher, like if I'm in the trees and it's not windy, I could even put it a little bit higher. But if I'm open field on a path or something, I would probably also put these all the way to the bottom. And this, by the way, is an MSR snow blizzard, I think what they call it, snow stake. Just carry one for digging holes. Also an additional stake for some sandy ground. I don't really need it for sand, but mainly like trowel, and I wouldn't dig it like that. I would just scrape a hole, and it's pretty effective. And yeah, for packing the tent, the tarp, those lines, especially with the line locks, the line tightness, they always tangle up. So what I would always try to do is when I roll it up, only have one line not touching each other. So I do this for one line, and then I put one line here. Let me do this really quick, it's gonna probably be shaky. So the one line inside, then I have one here, then I can fold this in half, and I already prepared this one. So I just try to make them not touch each other, and then when I roll it up, and maybe this one here, this one here, and now I roll it up top to bottom. Each of the line doesn't touch each other, and then I leave one on the outside that I use to wrap around in the end.